Hello guys, welcome back to narsicloud.com. So far we have covered a lot of AWS core concepts. If you are new to this video, feel free to watch my previous videos. You'll get a complete understanding on that. In today's video, we're going to talk about identity access management. What is identity access management and what problem is it solving, and what's the purpose of IAM, right? So before we go dive into the details of IAM, let's try to understand the problem statement. If you look at this diagram, we have lots of resources, right? EC2, S3, VPC, Lambda, RDS, and there are tons of other services in AWS. What is the purpose of those services? Every service has its own functionality, and it is providing some capabilities, right? But that's the resource part, and the other part is principal, which could be user or app, right? And these are the folks gonna be using these services. We cannot just go ahead and use the service like that, right? Before that, users have to be set up first. They have to be set up in such a way that they will get access to the services. Who is doing that? Once a user gets created, that user has to be given permissions. What kind of services that user can access, and on each service, what kind of actions that user can perform. Who will do that? We need somebody to manage all of this, right? That's where IAM comes into picture. IAM will take care of all of these activities. IAM will let you create users and manage their credentials and provide different ways that a user can get authenticated, right? Enabling multi-factor authentication, giving the permissions so that a user can do a few things, set of things on a given service, right? If you take an example here, this is the user, right? And if let's take one of the services here, EC2. A user can get access to EC2, and that user can stop the EC2 or start EC2, delete EC2, or create EC2 instance. There are a lot of actions you can perform. So once this user gets access to EC2, we can restrict the permissions. It's all done by IAM. That's where you define the rules. That's a home of credentials, home of users, home of rules that defines what you can do on a given service. That is the basic concept of IAM. That's why we need IAM. If you don't have IAM, these are useless. These resources are useless. Nobody can access them, right? So very first time in a given AWS account, for the first time when you create an account, you will give your email ID and password, right? So you log in with that into AWS console. That user is called root user. He's a super user. By default, that user has access to all the services. As per best practice, AWS suggests not to use root user for your day-to-day activities. First time log in and create new users to perform your company activities, all of that, right? And then give enough permissions to respective resources. So if I log into console using root user, and I create new user. Let's assume that this is the new user. By default, you will not get any access to any of these services. It's 0. We have to provide specific explicit. We need to give explicit access to these services. So that's where you define set of rules for this user under IAM. So to be able to access, anytime you talk about access or accessing something or security, it's all about credentials, right? To get authenticated, The same concept here as well. When you create an user, you will get credentials generated, right? IAM will provide two ways. You can create password, and it also provides other set of credentials called access key ID and secret. So console password is you use that password to log into console, which is AWS console, right? It's a web application. You log into that using password. But when you log into that using password, you can access the services through console. I will show you what it looks like, right? I've been showing my past videos. You log into AWS console. That's what it is. That's what it means. And there is other way that you can access these services, which is called programmatic access. That means what is programmatic access? Your a piece of software running in some machine, and that machine should be able to access these services by using the access key ID and secret. So your app can use this access key ID and secret. It can configure all of that, right? That's a programmatic way of accessing. So at any point, it all comes back to again a user and user's credentials and set of permissions given to that user. That's all it's about. Anytime if you get confused, when you go deep into IAM, come back and think about this is the basic concept: user, credentials, and what permissions that user is given to perform on these resources, right? User, credentials, permissions that user can perform on these resources here. That's all about IAM, nothing more than that. And there are different ways that you can provide credentials. You can allow users, set up users, right? So there are regular users which are within the AWS. So if you look at this user is within the AWS account. Sometimes we need to provide access to these resources for the users which are outside of this AWS account. For example, in your company, we have these regular users which are in Active Directory, right? They're not part of this AWS account. So how do we provide access to these services? We cannot come to this AWS account and create all of those users, right? That's not scalable, and that's not the way we can do. That's where federation comes into picture. We call those users as federated users, and to provide access to those kind of users, we will do few steps in IAM so that those users which are outside of AWS account can also access these resources. All these things will be handled under IAM. So what is IAM? IAM is a service to manage users and their access and their permissions, so that they will be given enough permissions to act on these resources. That's what IAM is. So what it looks like under console, let's go to. So when I say console, this is a AWS console, right? What I logged into, how I logged into this AWS console is I logged in with one of my users. It could be root user, it could be IAM user, right? I logged in with my password. So like I mentioned before, when you create user, you will get two options, right? You can use either password, or you could use access key ID and secret to access the services. So right now I'm able to access these services by using my password. So under IAM, you got two categories: access management and access reports, right? I'll go over all of this in the next video. And I'll go deep dive into it, and I'll create the real users and talk through it and how a user perform, and how do we give permissions to those users, all of that. Okay, so that's all, guys, for today. If you like this video, please click on like button, and please do subscribe. and I am going to make lots and lots of videos like this. Stay tuned. In our next video we'll go deep dive into IAM. Okay, see you guys, bye.